Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and go to the other segment called the grill. Since we were just talking about Lamar, I'm gonna go ahead and start this one off with a question for you, Jake.
Oh boy.
All right, who would you rather have? Just starting a team, or which quarterback would you rather build around? Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson?
These are your favorite questions, and I love it because there's so many different ways you can look at this. I think with my personal style, like how I like a game to be played, I would go with Kyler. Um, Kyler, he's had a great season so far. He played very well last season, but this season is definitely a jump up. You can make the same argument for Lamar Jackson this year, but I think Kyler, he's a little more accurate, if you ask me, with his passing. I feel like he's able to kind of read a situation a little better at some points. I mean, there's a reason the team is still undefeated. So I'm gonna have to go Kyler, but it's a very close choice for me.
Yeah, I personally I have no idea who I'd pick between the two. I think I'd say Lamar, at least for right now. I definitely think Kyler's having the better season, but if I'm starting a team, I want Lamar Jackson.
I think that's fair.
All right, next question: Are the Bengals for real?
Um, I fall in a weird middle area with the Bengals. Their defense is nothing spectacular, though they did play really well against Baltimore this week. It's still a question of how much they're going to give up. Because Lamar really didn't have that bad of a game passing, if we're being honest.
No,
Um,
not at all.
their run game was what was shut down, and if you can shut down any team's run game and at least be competitive against their pass game, you can win a ball game. And I think that's what the Bengals did this week. But it's like I said earlier, is this team too young and too that doesn't have the experience? Are they not prepared to make a run in January, or do they have just enough to go the distance and potentially go all the way? And if you ask me, I think they're still just a little too young. I think they might squeak in the wild card, go second in the division probably, but I don't think they can go the distance. So I guess my answer is yes, but
Not yet.
I need another week like this past week to really prove it to me.
Who were the Bengals' second loss? I know they lost to the Packers, but who was that second loss?
Well, they lost to the Bears, did they not?
No, they ended up coming back against the Bears.
I think
They lost. I want to say
no, the Bears did beat them 20-17.
yeah.
Oh, the Bears did. Gotcha. Well, both of those teams have top defenses. I mean, Baltimore doesn't have. I'm not saying they don't have a top defense. I just want to see what they did against Baltimore. I want to see them against one of the top playoff teams, like of this season. That like we know that is going to make the playoffs. I mean, Baltimore.
Right.
They're gonna make Baltimore and Cincinnati. They're both gonna make the playoffs. I think, in my opinion. I don't know which one's gonna win the division.
I think Baltimore can probably run away with that division once they just get their game plan down and can it play a little bit more competitively with other defenses.
All right. So last question for you. Now this is barring any movement in the cases or anything. Do you think Deshaun will be moved by the trade deadline? Deshaun Watson?
I haven't really seen a lot of action other than the report late last week of the Dolphins potentially getting a deal done with them for Deshaun in the coming days. But ever since that report, and I want to say that was Friday or Saturday, I haven't heard anything else. But if they're close to a deal there, I could see it happening. Um, the question then just becomes, is he going to play? Um,
Right.
if Houston doesn't get a deal done with anybody, which obviously right now it's looking most likely going to be Miami, and I'm curious as to what they're going to give up for that, or what Houston is willing to take for that. Um, I I don't know. It's a very rough situation there. Even if
Yeah.
taking away the cases and everything outside of like off the field, outside of the locker room, even if you just take those away, it's still a weird situation that I have no clue where it's going to go.
Yeah, I saw a report where he used his no trade clause on Philly. He said no to Philly. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I don't that's that's kind of weird cuz I would say that those they're still young. I would say Philly probably has I won't say better weapons there, but I'd say they still I feel like he could do better in that offense than in Miami's offense.
Oh no, that Miami offense. I
Deshaun
feel like
Watson, plug and play for Miami.
yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like he would flourish in Miami.
And with Brian Flores as his head coach in that defense,
Yeah, that defense and
Well, I think he'd
yeah,
play
everybody.
well. I think honestly he'd play well no matter where he went. I mean, before this all happened, he was still playing with some of the best QBs in the league. So I think he'd play well no matter where he went. I just think that maybe in a different offense, and that's not taking anything away from Miami's offense, you know. Like you guys said, he would probably play very well there. But I think in some other offenses, he'd play a little better. So I guess it's my turn to ask a few questions. And Colby, I've got some spicy ones for you here.
go ahead and fire whenever you're ready.
All right. So my first question, and I'll try to keep these a little short. Who has been the biggest surprise to you this season? The Bengals or the Raiders?
Ooh. I'd have to go Bengals. They did Joe Burrow. He looks. I mean, he showed flashes in his rookie year and all, and showed why he was the number one overall pick. But it looks like this year he's just going off with Jamar. But the Raiders, I still got to. I don't like how they got their bye week this week. They've gotten 2 straight wins. I want to see them keep going. I don't want to see this bye week kind of mess up their flow or anything or what they got going on. But most surprising, it'd have to be Cincinnati. I did not think that defense was going to play up to the standard that they have.
I think I definitely agree with you there. I expected the Raiders to maybe have a win or two at this point, but not be playing with some of the better teams in the league right now as far as records go. Um, Second question, Tom Brady. We talked about it earlier. Tossed for his 600th touchdown pass this week. Um, who do you think will finish higher on the touchdown leaderboards, Brady or Aaron Rodgers?
I I don't think that I think Aaron Rodgers is going to end up being second. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that he'll be able to play until he's 46. I think Aaron might hang it up at 41, 42. Uh, what we see from Tom Brady is just unnatural at this point. I think Tom Brady might end up getting 700 before he's done.
Do you think Rodgers will get pretty close to Brady?
I need to go look at the numbers, see how many touch Rodgers threw for 400 last year.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think he got 420 a couple
Yeah,
weeks ago.
yeah, he got 420 against Pittsburgh. I think I could see Aaron ending up in like the high fives, but maybe hitting six. But I don't think I think Tom has that record pretty any of the passing records honestly on lock. Until it's honestly we got to see what Aaron Rodgers does with the rest of his career, what he wants to do with it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement to make. But I think a lot of people are saying that once Rodgers gets out of his Green Bay contract, he says he could go another 5 years after Green Bay at least. And I think if he can do that and still put up 30 touchdowns a year, he'll get pretty close to that mark. He'll get
Oh,
pretty close.
if the trade rumors that were true before the draft this year that he was going to go to Denver, he could easily be putting up Peyton Manning numbers every year. Like Peyton Manning's 2013 year. Yeah, I mean, in Denver, he would have all the weapons. I'm not saying that he doesn't have the weapons in Green Bay because he has the top 5 running back, the number 1 receiver in the league, and a not so bad offensive line,
Mm-hmm.
barring injuries.
All right, so I'm gonna get to my last question. It's another QB related question. We were talking before the show about Carson Wentz and how he's played pretty well this year, all things considered. Which QB has made the bigger impression on you this year, Carson Wentz or Jameis Winston?
See, I have seen nothing change out of Jameis Winston. I still see the one game that he plays like how he threw for the most yards in that 2019 or yeah, it was 2019 year. How he led the league in passing. You see those games, but then you also see the games against the Panthers where his offense is shut down. We also doesn't have Mike Thomas. He doesn't have his team is also injury plagued. But who was the other one? I'm sorry.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, no, it has to be Carson Wentz. He was the turnover bug in Philly last year, coming over to this year, only having the 2 interceptions. He could have thrown 5 again against the 49ers in that rain game. But then again, Jimmy Garoppolo could have also had 4 interceptions, like playing in those weather. But for bigger impression, it has to be Carson Wentz because the Colts might actually have something in him.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jameis Winston, 13 touchdowns and 1 pick on the season so far, but he's a little lower on the numbers than you'd probably like to see. You hear 13 touchdowns, you're like, yeah, that sounds it's pretty good. How are his yards? They're only at 1,003, but that's not bad. That's nothing to scoff at, you know? Um, so for me, it'd probably be Jameis. He's definitely had a bigger turnaround than I think a lot of people expected. But I think it's a very close conversation because
They're kind
Carson
of. Go ahead.
because Carson has only 2 interceptions. They're both playing a lot better than a lot of people expected them to play, especially coming off of injury. In terms of Carson Wentz, um, but I don't know. I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on between those two going through the end of the season.
But they're kind of in the same situation. They both left their former team being turnover prone quarterbacks, going over to the new team, not committing as many turnovers, but probably not getting as many like wins as you would hope that they would. But I think the Colts could probably get something going with Quentin Nelson coming back as well. That run game is killer. Not saying the Saints aren't this. I thought the Saints would do a lot better against the Seahawks this week than only winning by 3.
Yeah, Ronan, you want to get your take in on this because I'm interested to hear what you'd have to say.
Yeah, I guess I'll be the split decision, right? Or
I,
I'll unsplit the decision.
I guess.
I'm gonna go. Ugh, I've been listening to you guys go trying to decide. I'm gonna have to side with Jameis maybe. I think what he's been able to do with the offense that's around him, it he has it's not much. It hasn't been a ton, but he also doesn't have a ton around him. So he's been able to make do, and he's been able to be surgical, and that's what they needed him to do.
Alrighty, Ronan, I got a couple questions for you.
Hit me.
So we all got a main theme with it. It's a bunch of AFC North like based questions, and I got 2 of them. One relates with an AFC North person, but the first question, with both of them seemingly putting up record numbers in both of their rookie years, who would you rather have to start off your franchise, Jamar Chase or Randy Moss?
Oh, Jamar Chase or Randy Moss?
They are putting up
Randy Moss.
through 7 games.
Come on.
Through the 7 games, Jamar Chase has more yards than Randy Moss. So
Randy Moss is Randy Moss. Hey, I will take Jamar Chase whenever someone jumping over a corner and catching the ball is called chasing someone.
might have to after putting up 200 yards against Marlon Humphrey.
No, I'm with you, and I'm on the Bengals hype train right now, but I am not that far on. I thought you were going to say like Jamar Chase or Jay Jettas.
I think both would have been interesting questions. I He has more yards than Randy Moss did through 7 games.
Jamar Chase has put up more yards than Randy Moss has.
Man,
I hope he ends up
In
being
their rookie years.
better.
I think Jamar Chase has like a specific skill set to me that don't get me wrong, Randy Moss, he was fast and he could jump with the best corners and safeties in the league. So I think I'd take Randy Moss, but that was also like we've seen his career, we've seen what he does. If we were to take him, his rookie self, and build around him now, we don't know what his career would look like, how different it would be, in 2021 on. But I think honestly, I don't mind that question. I think it's a good question after bringing up that stat. I think most people would probably take Randy Moss, but I think it does go to show just how well Jamar Chase is adapting to this league after the whole not liking the size of the footballs thing over the training camp and everything.
Okay, I guess that's fair. Me putting a rookie up against a Hall of Famer, yeah. But then we can go ahead and I want to get your guys' take on that. Then Jamar Chase or Jay Jettis for their rookie years.
Yeah, I'd take Chase. I
I
think he's on pace to annihilate the record, isn't he?
Pretty sure. I mean, if he's beating Randy Moss through 7 weeks, I'm pretty sure he's on pace to smash Jamar Chase. Justin Jefferson's record. Both LSU receivers, starting with Jay.
um I think I'd take Jefferson. He made such a great impression on me his rookie year that it's just kind of stuck with me, especially as an NFC North fan. Um, so I think I'd probably go with Jefferson, but again, Chase has exceeded my expectations for him by a long shot so far. So I don't know. It's a very close debate on that one.
Alrighty, so I got another question for you. Seemingly with the AFC North just being a powerhouse full of playoff teams, who do you think is going to come out of the AFC North? With that being like division winner or like another wild card team out of that division?
You know, hmm. I don't know who's going to win that division. That is such a toss-up still. There's not really a clear favorite because I mean, right now the momentum's in Cincinnati, and 3 weeks ago, no one was bringing up Cincinnati to win that division. So I don't. I still like the Browns a lot. I think if they can get healthy, they can be really effective. But Baker's going to be injured all year long, so I'm not really sold on them anymore. Just because of his torn labrum, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Partially torn, maybe. Uh, Baltimore. I would probably go Baltimore with the winning the division. I think Cincy might have a chance at getting into the wild card.
That
So
division
you
is a lot. Go ahead. Go ahead.
so you think Cleveland and Pittsburgh's just completely out of the playoffs?
Yeah, I think the AFC is. I mean, we've seen it. It's tough. There are multiple teams in each division that can fight for the number one spot. I mean, AFC South, you've got Tennessee and Indianapolis. I'm not really sure how that fight's going to go. I think Tennessee has the edge, but Indy can at the very least get a wild card spot. Then you've got AFC West with, Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs. Broncos have a decent record right now. I don't see them really being in the conversation by the end of the year though. But Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, those three teams are all in the playoff picture. I think it'll be tough for the Pittsburgh and Cleveland, with Cleveland having Baker hurt and Pittsburgh's offense isn't necessarily dynamic. Juju's out. I think it might be the top two teams that are right now, Cincy and Baltimore, but that may just be recency biased as well.
Hey, Pittsburgh's just looking to go above 500. That's all.
This
We're
division
not.
is This division is looking a lot like how we kind of expected the NFC West to go. And the NFC West, there's two clear-cut favorites, and the other two are just kind of dwindling on the bottom. But
Yeah, 100%.
obviously Russ got injured. That'll hurt the Seahawks, and the Niners aren't playing up to standard, if you ask me. But the that AFC North division is a battleground right now. I feel like if any team can just get the right momentum and get something right on either side of the ball, they can make a big push and take that division over. It's just when is it going to happen?
Alrighty, going into the final question with KC seeming like to be a different team every single other week. Who's to blame for their recent sputtering?
You know, I'm going to give a little bit of a hot take here. I think it's because of the rearrangement of their offensive line. Now, their defense has been atrocious. Do not get me wrong. But Patty, he's gotten comfortable behind that offensive line he had years prior. And now he has a few new faces. Everything's kind of moved around a little bit. I think that has taken a bigger toll than people expected it to. And I think that's why he's become a little bit trigger happy. I mean, he's always been trigger happy. He's a strong-armed quarterback, and that's just the price you pay. Turnovers are going to be a thing if your dude has a cannon, and I'm sure Andy Reid knows that. But I'm going to say the offensive line being rearranged. I wouldn't even say it's because of poor play, because I don't know all the stats. I don't have them all in front of me at the moment, but I just feel like Mitchell Schwartz, Fisher, guys like that were very, very, very helpful and beneficial for Patty.
No, the right tackle. I'm pretty sure he sat out the last year. He sat out like for COVID, so that's basically
Hmm.
his rookie year. They signed the big left tackle out of Baltimore, Orlando Brown. They got Creed Humphrey through the draft. They got the guard out of New England, Joe Tooney. And I'm not sure who's starting at that other guard spot, but yeah, they've it was a complete 180 from their offensive line, like going into the playoffs last year. I know how it got beat up through the playoffs, and that's what ended up getting Mahomes killed. So you think with them flipping every single position that it would fix it, but it just seems like it's creating more problems. Jake, what do you think?
I think it was a way. I remember us talking in free agency once they cut their two starting tackles. We were like, okay, like what's the point behind this? And then we were like, they signed two better offensive linemen. Like it looks like it's going to be another trip to the Super Bowl for Kansas City. But Ronan, I don't think that's the hottest take in the world. I just think that people aren't realizing just how much of a toll that offensive line switch has taken on Patrick Mahomes in that offense.
Yeah, no, and I don't think it's necessarily a hot take, but whenever you ask most people, they'll say the defense because that defense has been horrible this season.
Yeah,
If that makes any sense.
I agree. That defense is not. You look at guys like Tyrann Mathieu, and you expect him to just help control that defense and kind of play a field general, and yet even he's having his own problems in games, and you can see it just watching back game film against certain teams. Um, but I think it's a lot to do on both sides of the ball. Patrick Mahomes has at least one interception in what the last six. He has 16 interceptions in 16 games, and at least one interception in the last seven, if I read that correctly.
Hmm.
There's a lot of problems, and it's not just the defense, but I think a lot of it does have to do with how the pressure is getting to Mahomes if the offensive line collapses. So I think what you said, it makes a lot of sense, and I think it also translates to how Patty has been playing recently.